away for a while. He's moved over 1,000 miles from home. Now, in the sunny state of Florida, a man rises from the shadows to bring you a higher class of movie reviews. His name is Andrew Cavanaugh, and this is Cavanaugh's Corner.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. As always, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. Today, we're going to be talking about a recent release and a couple older films. As always, I like to talk about the classics as well as whatever's out, whatever's new in theaters. This week, I wanted to talk about a recent release that kind of went under the radar and box office-wise is not doing too good. That's a movie called Criminal. It's with Kevin Costner as the main star of the film. Gary Oldman is in it. Tommy Lee Jones. Ryan Reynolds plays a small part in the film. Gal Gadot is in it. So it's got a pretty stellar cast. But kind of similar to Batman vs. Superman, it has not been getting very good reviews, not in the least. And I wanted to give you my take on it. I just saw it recently. And my take on it is this. I enjoyed the film. I did not think it was a bad movie. But I do have to say that it does have a lot of problems. Now, on the show here, I don't like to spoil movies for you. I think if the movie is worth seeing, then I will not go and blow the movie for you. Nor will I leave like a spoiler part in the review because sadly accidents happen. You click on something accidentally and then all of a sudden you've heard a spoiler or anything. That's why I don't even put spoilers in my videos. But I do have to say that the movie itself I thought was at a whole, I thought it was I think it's worth watching. I think it's definitely worth watching if you're a Kevin Costner fan. If you're a fan of him, he is fantastic in this movie. I think he had a lot of fun making this movie, so I definitely think it's worth watching for that. Everyone else, though, Gal Gadot is probably the only other one in the movie that I really thought did like a really phenomenal job. The plot of the movie is, I think, its biggest weakness. It is really not an interesting plot for a film. Maybe it would have been a little over 10 years ago, but today it's kind of been there, done that territory. The overall plot of the film is Kevin Costner is this psycho killer, nutcase criminal, and he is kind of brought in so they can put Ryan Reynolds, his memories, his brain memories into Kevin Costner's head because Ryan Reynolds dies at the beginning of the movie. That's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. It's in the plot summaries if you look it up online. It happens right at the beginning of the movie. But that is basically the plot of the film. And then Costner is kind of tasked with the apprehension of this psycho terrorist guy, and in the end the plot is not very interesting, sadly. The plot itself is, like I said, I think it's its main weakness. The writing in the movie is okay, but it's not anything spectacular. Like I said, Costner is definitely the star of the film, and he's really good. He gives a totally like unplugged performance in this. It's the craziest we've seen him in quite a long time, probably since 3,000 Miles to Graceland, which is another really nutty film. This is much less zany than that movie was, but it does have some pretty good action sequences. I did have a couple laughs in it. There are some kind of funny moments here and there. And as a whole, I thought it was an entertaining film, but there are some plot holes that the movie has that it logically just don't make any sense, and I think that's kind of the main problem I had with this movie. Again, the other issue I have with the movie is that even though it's chock full of stars, nobody really gives a great performance except for Costner. Kevin Costner is just, like I said, he plays a real lunatic in this, and you really get the idea that he is part, this nut job, and now that Ryan Reynolds' brain is kind of in there with him, he's kind of battling between the two of the personalities of his, and you really get that when you look at him. But everybody else in it, Tommy Lee Jones is totally wasted in this movie, and he is a wonderful actor. He is one of my favorite actors of all time, and he is just not up to snuff in this film. I don't think he's given anything to do in this movie. And same with Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman's character is actually the most infuriating part of the movie, because some of the decisions he makes don't really make any sense, and his motivation is to stop the bad guy no matter what. And I think the other problem with this movie is the bad guy itself. You kind of get like a brief glimpse of what his deal is, like why he wants to just blow everybody up and destroy the government, but it really doesn't make any sense. You really don't get an idea of why he wants to do it. It's just all of a sudden he thinks that governments are the problem, so the solution is to just blow everybody up, and it doesn't really make any sense, which is too bad. But the action sequences in the movie are definitely entertaining. Like I said, Costner he's great. I mean, he's at his best in this, even though it's a movie that he could have just sat back and done nothing. He's having a good time in this movie, and I have to give him a lot of credit, because he really gave it his all, and I think that's why the movie is as entertaining as it is. The direction of the movie, nothing special. Some really interesting camera angles here and there. I think it's actually edited really well, more than anything else. But the direction of the film, again, not one of its strong points. It's okay, but it's not anything to write home about. My rating for this movie, if I had to give it a rating, between great, good, bad, and ugly, I'd say it was good. But it's really on a really tight line between good and bad. It's definitely not ugly territory, and it's definitely not great territory. It's right between that good and bad territory. It's right in the middle. But I'd say if you're a Costner fan, it's definitely worth watching. And if you just want to, escape for 2 hours and watch this kind of somewhat interesting crime thriller movie, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting film, but in the end, if you don't see it, it's worth a rental. But if you miss it in theaters, sadly, it's not that big of a deal. But I enjoyed it, and if you like Kevin Costner, you might enjoy it too. So that's my rating for this one. I'd say good, bad, kind of in between there. Okay. So next I wanted to talk about, because I didn't want to do like a 5-minute episode, I want to talk about some other Kevin Costner movies that I really enjoy. I talked about last week on the show about my guilty pleasures, some of my favorite movies that may not be anything special, but I enjoy them. And one of the movies on the list last week is The Bodyguard, and that's one of my favorite Kevin Costner movies, if not my favorite Kevin Costner movie. Even though he's done some incredible films. I mean, Dances with Wolves is one of the best movies ever made. One of the greatest historical dramas, I'd say, I think ever made. But funny enough, it's not one of my favorite Kevin Costner movies. Dances with Wolves is not a movie I can go back and rewatch over and over and over and over again. Once you've seen it, that's it, But I love that movie. It's not a bad movie. I do enjoy it. But I want to talk about a few other Kevin Costner movies that I think you'd enjoy and I really love. Some of these you may have seen, some of them you might not have. The first one I want to talk about right away was The Untouchables. The Untouchables is a great film. Brian De Palma directing, again, does an amazing job. Some of the best action sequences ever put on film. The period setting, that Prohibition era setting, is done literally spot on perfectly in this movie. And Sean Connery just kicks ass in this movie. He got the Oscar for a reason for that, and that's because he's literally perfect in this film. Costner is just as good, if not better. And funny enough, he didn't really get much acclaim for that film, which is too bad, because I really enjoy his performance in that movie. Again, Robert De Niro as Capone is awesome. Everybody in the movie, and even Andy Garcia, who plays a smaller part, does a great job. Just an overall, really well shot, well edited, fantastic music. Everything about it is it's just all A+ material. And again, you've probably seen The Untouchables, but if you haven't, go pick it up on Blu-ray. It's definitely worth watching. Next on my list I wanted to talk about was Revenge. Revenge is another Kevin Costner movie. It's a Tony Scott film. Came out in the mid-'80s. I think it was 87 if I'm not correct. And again, this is one of those movies where some people do not enjoy this film. I really enjoyed the original cut of the film. I mentioned the original cut because a few years back, before Tony Scott sadly passed away, which is one of the worst losses to the film world in my opinion. I think he directed some incredible movies over the years. But Revenge is kind of an early one. It was right after Top Gun, so Tony Scott was kind of sitting on top of the world. And he made this movie with Costner, and I think it's a really well-made movie. I think, the cinematography of it is fantastic. Again, not the greatest story in the world, but you really care about the characters in that movie, and I think that's something that a lot of other action movies that time period kind of missed was, the characters in a lot of those movies are kind of careless. You don't really give a crap about what happens with them. But much like Top Gun, you actually, for whatever reason, you really become attached to the characters in the film, and I think that's how the movie grabs you. I mentioned the original cut, as I said earlier, because there was a director's cut that came out a few years ago that I guess Tony Scott actually had say over. I guess it was actually his decision to make certain changes to the movie. I guess. I'm guessing on that. Again, I have not really done a lot of research on it, but I absolutely hate that director's cut. It's one of the few director's cuts that I can't stand. They remove a lot of scenes to the film that I think are integral to character development, and they are exchanged with deleted sex scenes and scenes that make the movie more erotic but don't help character progression or anything in the sort, and it kind of makes it almost like a really high budget, like softcore porn movie, and it's such a shame because the original cut, even though it did have a couple pretty hot scenes in it, it wasn't really about that. It was more about love and loss. And, I think it's kind of a sin that they re-edited the movie like that. It's too bad that we can't even get the original cut of that movie on Blu-ray as of now. You can get the director's cut, but you can't get the original version of the movie on Blu-ray. You can get it on DVD, and I don't even think the DVD's in widescreen, so it's a real shame that, you gotta kind of suffer with this, my opinion, a very inferior version of the movie if you're going to buy it in high def. So Sony Pictures, if you're watching, there's money in it for you if you put the original cut of it on Blu-ray. I know a lot of people would much prefer that version. Another movie I wanted to talk about with Costner would be For the Love of the Game. For the Love of the Game is a movie that came out, I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s, pardon me if I get that wrong. But Costner plays a pitcher. His name is Chappell, and I love that name. And he is pitching basically the game of his life, possibly his last game. And all throughout the game, you get these flashbacks of his relationship with the woman that he fell in love with. And it's more of a love story than it is a baseball movie. But the sport of baseball is treated with such kindness with this film and such love that you can tell that everybody involved really had a great time making the movie. Sam Raimi's the director, and again, it's kind of one of these movies where it's like, Sam Raimi directed that? But he did, and funny enough, I think it's one of his best movies. Again, the movie looks amazing. Costner and everybody else involved in the movie is fantastic. They all give grade A performances. And I think also the movie does a great job of actually showing what it's like to be on the field in a baseball game. Even if you're not a fan of baseball, the movie kind of gives you an idea of what it's like to be surrounded by thousands of people screaming at you, and the pressure that it kind of takes on you when you're on a field in a baseball game. It's one of the few movies to really represent that well. I think The Natural is probably another one. These baseball movies where you really get to feel like, holy crap, like this is a real game going on right now. You don't ever think it never seems like it's a movie, which I think is great. But that's another one I really enjoy. And again, it's a love story. You know, some people call it a chick flick. I honestly, I mean, I could see it if you said it, if you thought it was that. But honestly, I think it's a great character study, and it's also a really good baseball movie in my opinion. But again, Costner, knocks it out of the park. See what I did there? Anyway, even though he never bats in the film. But it's a great movie. I love that movie. Another movie I wanted to talk about with Costner that he actually directed is Open Range. Open Range is a Western that came out, I want to say probably about 10 years or so ago now. And Open Range is a great Western, kind of done in the tradition of like High Noon and movies like that, where Costner and his rancher buddy, Robert Duvall, kind of get bullied because they're open range ranchers. They're moving cattle along, and they kind of are facing a lot of problems because they want to be fenced. They don't want to be fenced in by like barbed wire and things like that. And guys come and mess with them, and in the end it turns into a revenge story without ruining the film. I think you should definitely see it if you haven't seen it yet. But it turns into a revenge movie, and there's a great showdown at the end between Costner and the bad guys. Actually, Costner, Robert Duvall, and the bad guys. And it's just a really great movie. You learn a lot about Duvall and Costner's characters. They're very relatable. Everybody in the movie is actually very relatable. It's one of the few westerns where you really you get a handle on all the characters. They're not like cardboard cutouts like some John Wayne movies. They're very much fractured kind of people, which is interesting to see in a western. Much like kind of Unforgiven. I love Unforgiven. That's one of my favorite films of all time. This is kind of in that same kind of range, and I love Open Range. The action in it is awesome too for a western. The way Costner directs it, it's almost like a modern day action film shot as like a western. It's very, very, very well done. And it's one of these movies where I have not yet met one person that said, I didn't like that movie. Everybody loves this movie. So if you haven't seen it, definitely pick it up. Again, another movie that's strangely missing in action on Blu-ray, but you can definitely get it on DVD. And if you don't have it, it's a must-own. So definitely check out Open Range. Great movie, great piece of filmmaking. Another classic Western by Costner. Definitely more rewatchable than Dances with Wolves. As much as I love that movie, I've seen Open Range more times than I've seen Dances with Wolves, and I love Dances with Wolves. And the last movie on my list, and in my opinion, I think it's Costner's finest hour in terms of acting, and that's JFK. The Oliver Stone film about the conspiracy behind the Kennedy assassinations. Again, definitely in my top 10 movies, if I had to make a top 10 list of my favorite movies ever made, it is definitely up there. Definitely breaking the top 10. It's a movie that grows on you the more you see it, even though, again, it's a very long film, much like Dances with Wolves. It's definitely, I think it's around 3 hours or so. I think the director's cut may be longer. But it is a phenomenal piece of filmmaking. Oliver Stone is at his top in this film. His direction is just spot on, and I think it's a masterful piece of acting on everybody's part. Funny enough, Tommy Lee Jones is also in Criminal. With Kevin Costner, plays a very pivotal role in JFK, and his acting in it he's awesome in it. You just can't friggin' stand him in this movie. He plays one of the scummiest characters in film history, but he does a great job at being that scummy character. And it's not a part you see Tommy Lee Jones play a lot, but he's in it in this, and he does a great job, as does does Joe Pesci, as does Donald Sutherland. Everybody in the movie is great, but Costner has that "Never forget your dying king" speech at the end, and it gets to me every time I see that film. Every time I watch that movie, I can't help but get emotional when he starts talking about. He has that long monologue at the end, and it just, oh man, like, holy shit, is it fantastic? I mean, it just goes right through you, and you can tell it was a labor of love for Costner and everybody involved to get this movie made. Again, whether or not the movie is completely factual is up for debate. There's a lot of things in this movie that are totally way off base, and it's, of course, it's done that way to make for a good film. And I could understand that, that they would do that, even though it's a movie based on actual events. They stretch the truth, but as a film, I think it's a wonderful piece of entertainment, and I think it has some very iconic moments. But Costner's performance in it is just, I mean, it's an A+. It's another one of these movies where I go, how did he not win the Oscar for that? But sadly, the year that came out, he had some stiff competition, I guess. But yeah, those are some movies that I think if you enjoy Kevin Costner's work, and again, if you like his work, you should go see Criminal. It's basically the only reason to see the movie, in essence. But yeah, so For Love of the Game, Revenge, Open Range, Untouchables, JFK, all phenomenal films of his. Acting-wise, he's on top of his game in all of those movies, and he is again in Criminal. As much as it's not a great movie, he's definitely awesome in it. So definitely check out Criminal if you're a Kevin Costner fan. If not, and you're really not up for it, then go get any of those other movies that I mentioned earlier. So they're all worth it if you're a fan of Mr. Costner. But that's about it. That's all I got for this week. Next week we're going to be talking about some other movies. I'm looking forward to some upcoming releases. Civil War, Captain America: Civil War is around the corner. Another couple movies down the line. We've got so many movies coming up this summer. I'm thinking about doing a summer movie preview where I'm going to talk about all the upcoming summer releases. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, I'm Andrew Cavanaugh. Thank you for tuning into Cavanaugh's Corner. And as always, keep reaching for the stars, and so will I. Good night, everybody. See you later.